Alright, what is up? I am back with another video, another camera related video. I got some car stuff that I'm going to be doing reasonably soon. Have some things in the works. But right now, I got another camera video. This one is about Fuji X-mount lenses. More specifically, which ones would I recommend that you start with? I guess really the whole idea for this video came up with if I was buying a new Fuji, if I was new to the Fuji ecosystem and wanted to buy a camera and a lens, what would I pick? So these are my suggestions in this order for the first two lenses I would get. The very first one is the Sigma. Let's see. Nice. Well, it is the Sigma 18 to 50 f2.8. This is a zoom lens, obviously, because it is 18 to 50. So the reason I like this one, and I think it's a perfect first lens, there's a few of them. Number one, it's reasonably affordable. It's around $500, $550, depending on if you catch it on sale or something. It's reasonably fast at f2.8. It's not the fastest lens, but it's fast enough that you're not going to feel like you have a super slow lens. Like the lens that came with my X-T4 was the Fuji 16 to 80, and it is an f4 lens, which is not great in anything other than like full-on daytime. So like, I feel like this one would be a better first lens because f2.8 you can take pictures indoors and not have to be all the way wide open at all times. Like you can step it down a little bit, stop it down a little bit. And, you know, so that's very good. The zoom range, since Fuji makes pretty much exclusively APS-C cameras, I know they make medium formats too, but I'm talking about the X series camera. So since pretty much most Fuji cameras are APS-C, they don't have full frame, you got to remember that there is a crop factor. So this is technically an 18 to 50 millimeter lens, but the full frame equivalent would be something like 27 to 75. That is a pretty good range, like between all the way wide and as zoomed in as it will go. It's not like a super zoom or anything, but it gives you a pretty good range. I think that's important as your first lens because that lets you see which focal lengths you like. You know, like if you're totally new to photography, you may not really know what you want. I didn't. Like I would read the numbers and hear people talk about them on YouTube, and like I understood like from like an intellectual perspective what the different focal lengths meant, that a higher number is more zoomed in and a lower number is wider field of view. But there's a big difference between like hearing that and actually like using it. Like putting a lens on a camera and you can set it to these different focal lengths and you can take pictures of the same things and you can see like, oh, this is what I like. So since I would say that your next lens after this is probably going to be a prime, it makes sense for this one to be a zoom that covers the focal length range of most of the primes you would consider. So I think that's a huge advantage. Also, I think that this is just a generally good range to have, and I'm apparently not alone in that. If you look at the full frame equivalent of this lens, like I said, 18 to 50 is something like 27 to 75. And you look at the newer iPhones, their main lens, the 1X camera, is like a 24 millimeter equivalent compared to 27 on this one at the widest. So pretty close. And the 3X zoom on modern iPhones is about a 77 millimeter full frame equivalent. And this is a 75 millimeter full frame equivalent. So apparently, like, you know, everyone thinks that's a good general range. And it's definitely the range of primes you will see. The next lens you would probably want to get after this is going to be a prime, and you've got choices like a 23 is a 35 millimeter equivalent. A 33 is a 50 millimeter equivalent. Well, this covers, or 35-ish is a 50 millimeter equivalent, somewhere in there, 33, 34, whatever. This covers that whole range. So like I said, you can kind of check it out and decide like which one of, what part of that range do you like and would you want in a prime? So I think that's super valuable. I've taken some really good photos with it. I haven't done a ton of video, but it does have very quiet autofocus. So that is definitely a plus. Get out of my way, remote control. that's definitely a plus. Like, you can definitely shoot video with it. The autofocus seems good. It's quiet. I haven't noticed any weird stuff going on. Like, it generally just shoots video. I took some video of my daughter's kindergarten graduation with it, and like, it had enough reach to be a lot better than you would think from where I was sitting, like pretty far back, because going to her graduation, I didn't know how far away I would be. I didn't really want to take my other lens because it's f4 and it's inside and stuff. So like, yeah. So I just took this one and it worked out pretty well. Like, it did some pretty good video. So yeah, overall, I think this is probably the first lens you should get, is the Sigma 18-50 f2.8. The next one that I would get is, like I said, a prime. In my case, this is my favorite prime, and this is definitely a lot of personal preference. Like, you may prefer a different focal length, but I really enjoy this Viltrox. It's a 23 millimeter f1.4. 23 millimeter is a 35 millimeter full frame equivalent, and it's just a good, nice looking focal length to me. It's like, it's wide enough that you can use this lens in the kind of situations that I'm normally in, like travel and stuff. Like, I can take pictures of buildings, I can take pictures of my family, like if we're eating in a restaurant and they're across the table from me, then this is a good focal length because it captures them, and it also gives you enough of that like background to where it's a good storytelling lens. Like, something that is a longer lens, like a 35 or 33, that would be roughly a 50 mil equivalent, that's starting to get into like really just getting your subject kind of like in a vacuum, like in isolation. And I feel like this wider lens, the 23 millimeter, 35 equivalent, gets more of like your surroundings, the background, the scenery. Like, you can really tell, like, I can look at the pictures that I have taken with this lens when we have traveled, and I can pretty much automatically know where we are, because while it definitely like highlights the subject, it gets enough of the background and surroundings that you're definitely going to see where you're at, and like, it can tell a story. Like, I've got pictures of Ava in New Orleans, like in the warehouse district, and you can see the buildings in the background. It is also good just for like taking pictures of buildings and signs and stuff like that. And it's also very fast. At f1.4, like, this is like the reason. At f1.4, this dude is fast. And like, I really recommend you get something fast like this, especially if you're coming from either just like taking pictures with a cell phone, or a smaller camera like a point and shoot, or even like a 1-inch sensor camera, like the RX100 or the Canon G5X, G7X, whatever. Any of those kind of cameras with a smaller sensor and a slower lens, once you have the relatively larger APS-C sensor and a legitimately pretty fast lens like this 1.4, the first time you take some pictures in low light with it wide open, you're gonna be like, wow, it just feels cool. Like, the picture quality you get with really no light at all is just absolutely amazing. Especially coming from, like I said, smaller sensor cameras. If you've been taking, like, I know that modern cell phones have like the night mode, you know, for low light pictures, but that's really only good for capturing static things because any movement's gonna get pretty blurry pretty fast, because they're actually taking multiple long exposures and stacking them together and stuff. But on this, you can actually just take one picture at f1.4 and it's gonna work pretty well. You're going to be able to see details, and you're going to have that like clarity and sharpness that really only comes with a relatively large sensor and some really fast glass, and like, that is just cool. But yeah, overall, if I'm traveling light, this is my setup. I have the zoom, the Sigma 18-50, and I have the Viltrox 23 millimeter f1.4, and that covers, I would say, the vast majority of situations for me. Now, of course, if you've got some specific interest in mind, if you're looking for lenses because you want to take pictures of birds or something, then this is probably not going to be the setup for you. But if your wants and needs are similar to mine, you want to take travel photos and family photos and, you know, videos and stuff like that, and you're trying to capture memories and, you know, maybe some travel photo stuff and, you know, things like that, general photography, I think this is like a really solid setup. Neither of these lenses are have optical image stabilization, but I found that to be a non-issue because my camera has IBIS. I have the XS20, which is what I'm shooting this on, and it's what I'm keeping. I'm selling my XT4. I just used it so you could see how big the lens is on the camera. Also, I didn't bother swapping them out because they're almost exactly the same size. Like very, very close. You also notice I've got filters on both of these. I don't really like using lens hoods because it makes it to where this doesn't fit in my bag anywhere near as well. Where's the lens hood for this bad boy? Let's see. I will demonstrate. Probably should have thought of this before. I think this is it. Yeah, it's Sigma. So once I put that on, it just makes it so much larger and longer. So what I have on both of mine are, I would highly recommend you buy just a cheap UV filter. I use Tiffin usually because they, as far as I can tell, have zero impact on image quality, but they do give you some level of protection against scratches and stuff like that. The Sigma 18 to 50 takes a 55 millimeter filter, and the Viltrox 23 mil f1.4 takes a 52 millimeter filter. I don't know if you can see it on there. I think so. There we go. But yeah, I just have screw-on UV filters on both of them. They're about $7 on Amazon, and I feel like they're pretty cheap insurance. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, the Viltrox 23 millimeter f1.4 lens is like $279. Like, it is so cheap for how good it is. Like, that's one of the other main reasons I suggest this. It's like your first prime. But yeah, that is what I would do if I were to purchase a camera today and was having to pick which lenses I want. I would start with this one, the Zoomy boy, the Sigma 18 to 50 f2.8. And then for my first prime, I would probably get the Viltrox 23 millimeter f1.4. Well, I think that's basically all I had to say today. I've got some other videos in mind that I'm working on, some more camera stuff, some more car stuff, but I think that wraps it up for today. I'm going to put links to everything I talked about down in the comment section, so go check them out if you're interested in any of this stuff, and I think that's about it. Holler.